spoken to the media at a New York Knicks press conference. We're going to break it down and react and give you my key takeaways, listen to your key takeaways, and we move forward to Summer League this weekend. We'll talk about that with the roster assembled for Summer League as the off-season continues buzzing. Welcome in, guys. Great to have you with us tonight. Look forward to chopping it up with the chat. CT, your host. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Great to have you with us. All things New York Knicks with the buzz coming through. And Mike Brown has officially spoken, and some really good takeaways from this one. Obviously, you know, I've got to start by prefacing it's a press conference, and we've heard a lot of the cliches before. We've heard a lot of quotes before from past coaches and presidents coming and going. But one thing I take away, man, from Mike Brown, and one thing you can't take away from him, is that he's always himself, man. He's authentic. And I really got that in this one, man. It was a smaller kind of press conference. It wasn't done, you know, on the floor at Madison Square Garden like they did with Jalen Brunson. It wasn't, you know, a grander stage. It was at the, I think it just the auditorium, the media area at MSG. And it went for 21 minutes. A lot of good questions came through. A lot of the questions that we talked about last night, and a lot of the questions that you guys would have asked Mike Brown and wanted to hear Mike Brown's response to. And we got quite a lot of that as well. But, you know, the authenticity, I think, really came through with Mike Brown. And like I said, man, he don't really care. He's been fired a few times. I mean, he's coming in terms of, he knows the expectations. And he really wants to win. You know, he talked about championships. He mentioned that word. He mentioned the C word. And he even put an S on the end. He mentioned championships. Very purposely as well. And I got a good vibe. I got a good vibe out of this one. He spoke about he's reached out to the players, wanting to really establish that relationship early, that trust, that line of communication. And he's super excited, of course, to take this job. Obviously not that long removed from the Sacramento job. He thanked his fiance, who's excited for him as well, full support, moving over to New York. She's a foodie and is looking forward to, you know, trying out the restaurants before Mike Brown really gets to work after September and really diving into this process, right? But welcome in Creative Lou, Darren, Optimus 2G, Daniel Berry, Walter Blackman, Prezi the Boss, David Haas, what's up, guys? Great to see y'all. Entry, what's good? Yeah, I want to give you my key takeaways first, and then look, just for anyone, like I said, first part of the show, we're gonna react to the press conference, and we're gonna watch it. If you've seen it already, Replay Squad, you can, you know, fast forward, but love to have you, you know, react with us live as well and give us your thoughts. But like I said, there is a lot to unpack tonight's show. We're going to talk about the latest news. Summer League popping this week. I've put together a kind of a little rotation that I think could be it for Summer League this starting this week against Detroit. Detroit's announced their Summer League team. They got Ron Holland coming back, ready to square up. Dennis Jenkins, Bobby Clintman, Shaz Lanier, a guy that I was high on, Bryce Williams as well. So it's going to be fun, man. I'm really hyped for Summer League. I think the first matchup's going to be cool. We play Brooklyn as well with all their first round picks. One of them was the New York Knicks pick as well. Obviously, we got the core Knicks contracted guys coming through with Marjon Beauchamp, Anton Watson. We get a first look at Naji Diawara and Dink Pate. Tokyo Drift, Barber is in the house as well. Looking forward to talking about Summer League as well. But before we just start to get my key takeaways and reactions for the press conference, the important news first that we established out of this is that Mike Brown, yeah, he's reached out to the players, he's established that line of communication. He has also put plans in place with Leon Rose to conduct that process of assembling his staff, and that includes Rick Brunson continuing in an assistant role, but actually taking a more reduced role and taking a step back a little bit. And so Mike Brown, it's important for him. Leon Rose understands that he can hire his associate head coach, and there was no really names floated about. But I like the fact that Mike Brown has to get his guys in, and he talked about partnerships. I really liked how he focused on the partnership with Leon Rose and James Dolan and the Knicks front office, but the partnerships with his assistants. That's really key. You can't do it all by yourself. Mike Brown said that. You got to understand and respect what the assistants bring to the table. Not really a shot at Thibodeau, but from my perspective, I don't think we got to see enough of that from Tibbs, And yeah, Tibbs has a wealth of basketball knowledge and feels like he could have done it all by himself, but you got to lean on your assistants. What do they say, guys? Two minds are better than one, and you got some different ideas on the table with offensive coordinators and defensive guys. Also, Mike Brown spoke about the versatility of the roster. He had a great question regarding Cat and Mitchell Robinson and the stark contrasts, and he said, "Love it. I love what they both bring. Mitchell Robinson, obviously with a vertical threat. Karl Anthony Towns, right, with a spacing threat." And I thought that was really key, because when you hear Karl Anthony Towns, we didn't get enough of that space threat. Mike Brown alluded to that straight away, man. Mitch vertical, Cat spacing threat as well. So I really like that. He talked about, what's your philosophy? A reporter asked, if there's a Mike Brown style of play, what is it? What's your philosophy? And he's like, look, I've learned so much over my time. Just got to make sure you instill your philosophy, because every coach has their philosophy. But you got to make sure it fits the roster and what the roster is suited towards. And it's always ever evolving as well. So, you got to hear that. It's got to fit the roster and it's got to be ever evolving. You're in the playoffs, your opponent, makes an adjustment, a counter, and you've got to, be willing and not too stubborn to, to focus and counter that. So that was key. There was no Knicks at the press conference, from what I gathered, fam. There was, the camera didn't pan and show anybody else. Like I said, it was more of a, a very smaller auditorium press conference, which is cool. You got to get straight into the details. But yeah, the Rick Brunson thing, a lot of that is going to make people happy. I understand that, Rick's still on the staff and he's not going to go anywhere, but obviously, it's really key that he's still around, in my opinion. Still, continuity is important, but he will take a reduced role. What else we can talk about tonight, man? Yabusele, officially active on X, put out a statement. A really genuine guy, man. Came across and thankful for Philly. Only after 1 year. You think Philly lowballed him and all of that, but Yabu released a great statement, thanking Philadelphia, the organization. I'm sure he's grateful that Philly helped bring him back into the league, into the NBA. But he also talked about how excited he is, to be joining the New York Knicks. We have some free agency news, is that Al Horford unlikely to return to Boston, according to Brad Stevens and the local media. So he's set to decide on his future very, very soon, with Summer League underway. MSG did their off-season special. Their projected second unit was exactly the projected second unit that I had, man, with Miles McBride, Jordan Clarkson, Josh Hart, Yabusele, and Ariel Hakporti as well. So shout out MSG, I see you. I think that is a great second unit, and it makes a lot of sense with some defensive guys, Deuce and Huck Porty, and then the two new offensive guys as well, who Mike Brown spoke about. So Mike Brown was asked about, well, brought up the fact that the two new guys are in town, and he's excited to get to work, man. Excited to get to work. I hear a comment about nervousness. I mean, I think it was very casual, and I feel like, obviously it's a big stage, man, the Mecca, and I think Mike Brown was confident. He was very casual, relaxed, and I feel like, he's just ready to get to work. Speaking of getting to work, Gershon Yabusele also responding to a lot of the Knicks introductions, and we're going to get more familiar with your game, Gershon. Salute. Great to have you in the squad. Looks like the Warriors are planning to bring in DeAnthony Melton, as emerged as a strong contender. So that is one guy that the Knicks might not be able to get, but that means that another guy could be available and freed up. I like the name of DeAnthony Melton, but I don't think he was at the top of the New York Knicks list. We'll see as things play out. A guy that's very polarizing and a guy that I rarely agree with, but Chris Broussard, man, on First Things First, gave the New York Knicks an A-. Says 2 words, "Oh my, I love what the Knicks have done. I do think they should be favorites in the East." So we'll take a look at that later as well, as they give the Knicks an A-, the same grade as myself, and they love what the Knicks have done, man, with Jordan Clarkson specifically and Yabusele. Update on Westchester, man. They've acquired former first-round NBA draft pick Romeo Langford. So I like that pickup for Westchester Knicks. Romeo Langford, 25 years old, solid pickup with Westchester. I think that's going to make Westchester, a lot more fun and a lot more, reasons to tune in, I think, throughout the rest of this season. It's going to be cool seeing Romeo Langford. I liked his game coming into the league. He had a great season with the Spurs, and then it just kind of fizzled out a little bit after 2022. But he's got some great athletic tools. So that's a quick update that's just come through. Westchester Knicks have acquired Romeo Langford, formerly of the Celtics, as well. What else has just come through before we get to the press conference and the key takeaways? We have him and Leon Rose making it official. But shout out to Stephen Bondi, who was also first to speak on the Rick Brunson update. Right now on Malcolm Brogdon, guys, the Lakers, Clippers, Suns, Warriors, Wolves, Pelicans, and Kings, and Bucks. That's a long list. Expected to show interest in Malcolm Brogdon, but no mention of the New York Knicks. Now, you guys might know Brogdon is still a CAA client. So Brogdon's with CAA. We've heard the Knicks interested in Russ, in Ben Simmons, and a Dante Exum, but we haven't really heard any recent links to Malcolm Brogdon. So that's something to pay attention to. How are the Knicks going to fill out their final roster spot? We'll speak on that later tonight. Obviously, we've got some updates on Summer League, and who's going to vie for the two-ways, who's the favorite to get the final rookie spot, and the matchup with Detroit. We'll talk about a bit more later today. Marcus Smart, Dermot, yep, big-time name. Really looking to try to get Marcus Smart, but a buyout has to occur first. And I think there's quite a few dominoes. So far it's Bradley Beal, and the league's looking out for Malcolm Brogdon, and then I think, Al Horford. So people are keeping on to their cap space. And then I think the buyout has to take place between Washington and Marcus Smart. So still some ways to go until we can get to that stage. But most of y'all agree. David says Marcus Smart is a great pickup, and we need, we would need to help win the chip. Let's get it. Yuri Ark, great to see you. Even though it feels good to be favourites again, there's the Hawks, the Magic, the Pacers, etc. The East is wide open, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yeah, and I think as we dive into the Mike Brown press conference right now, the key takeaways and all of that, I think what I heard from Mike Brown is that he's not taking anything for granted, man. It's a step-by-step process, day to day. And he spoke about practice. He spoke about shoot around. He spoke about pace and space. He mentioned so many of the buzzwords that we expected that's going to come with a Mike Brown. On his Sacramento experience, learning, growing, evolving. He said, one practice and shoot around at a time. So I don't think Mike Brown is getting ahead of himself at all. He spoke on the 2 new additions, a lot of versatility, but helping us take it to another level, right? He was asked about Thibodeau. He said, Tibbs is an old friend of mine. We have a great relationship, but I don't want to get into the past. So he's looking forward. He didn't really want to comment on, the Tibbs aspect of the Knicks, but he did speak on how watching the Knicks as a fan, he saw the potential. He sees the potential in this team from watching the Knicks from afar and just as a fan of the league and watching the playoffs. He spoke about learning from a lot of the legends that he's coached. They're all different, and they all helped him get to where he is and be the man he is right now. So he paid respect to the former legends that he's coached over his career, from Tim Duncan, David Robinson, and the list goes on, from Kobe, LeBron, and obviously the Sacramento experience with De'Aaron Fox. He talked about his expectations. The expectations are big, but he says my expectations are high as well, and I'm ready to embrace those expectations. And he said, I've been to the final 6 times with 3 teams, and the common theming coming out is sacrifice, connectivity. Connectivity and sacrifice with that situation, man. Yeah, big up to Romeo Langford. I like the pickup for Westchester Knicks. Salute Paula and Russell Shokan in the house. Let's get into it, guys. Like I said, if you've seen the press conference before, part of this episode is to react to it. It's not every day that you get to unveil a brand new coach, so there's going to be cliches, and we've heard a lot of these things before, but I'm going to try to give you my key takeaways and what I like to hear. And like I said, I just think Mike Brown was himself. He wasn't trying to, be someone else. He knows what got him here, and he talked about the whole process. So let's just get into it, man. It's 20 minutes. I'll pause and stop and get the takeaways happening, guys. So salute to everyone in the building coming in. Let's get it started.
Thanking Leon, Mr. Dolan, Leon Rose, for this incredible opportunity. I'd also like to acknowledge my fiancée, Ro, for her continued support and for being here. I look forward to working with Leon, forming a great partnership with our shared common goal of winning a championship. I'm honored and excited to be the new head coach of the New York Knicks. You talk about a historic franchise, Madison Square Garden. It's iconic. Our fans, they're the most knowledgeable and passionate, probably in all of sports. There's a lot of work to be done. We have an outstanding roster. What they did in the playoffs shows their potential. I've had great conversations with all of our players, and I'm looking forward to growing positive, strong relationships with all of them over time. Our goal, starting with Mr. Dolan, to Leon, to the players, all the way down to the fans, is to build a sustainable winning culture that produces championships.
Yo, gotta stop it there. So, yeah, he does his little intro monologue, and then the questions begin in a couple of minutes. Yeah, my key takeaways there is obviously partnership. I mentioned James Dolan, who is a lot more active now. Put out a statement. James Dolan, obviously the partnership with him and Leon, and developing a sustainable. I like that word because what the Knicks had success in the regular season and postseason, but the regular season, man, it was a bumpy ride. It was up and down. Um, our play style worked against certain lineups and teams, and then it didn't work against certain teams. Remember we went 0-11 against some of the top teams, and some people felt like the way we played just was not sustainable. And Tibbs made a couple of good adjustments in the playoffs, to his credit, but I thought we kind of caught Boston by surprise. Mike Brown's focused on building, that sustainable system of winning, and obviously forming that partnership to win multiple championships with the S. So high expectations, man. I mean, it's easy to come in and say, I want to win a championship in this situation. I took this job, but I know I want to win multiple championships. And look, this is a guy who's been to the final 6 times, man. Right, his standards aren't low. His standards are very high. He's won championships before as an assistant 4 times, and he's been to the NBA Finals 6 times. He's coached some of the best players that have ever played this game. Right, so he's not going to, think that this job is like too big for him. He understands he's not big for this job either, and it's just the process of getting the job done right now.
That's why I'm here. I'm fortunate to know what it takes to create that success. A lot of hard work, a high level of commitment, and a focus on today. Now, a lot of you guys are going to say, this sounds cliche, and it is, but we can't skip any steps. It's about one day, one practice, one shoot around at a time. The soul of our identity when it comes to culture is going to be based on a trust that's centered around sacrifice, a connectivity, a competitive spirit, and an overall belief in the process and each other.
Yeah, baby. That's a lot of the words I've said in the past, man. I've said trust. Trust. You got to trust your teammates. Mike Brown, I'm glad he said that, because you can't win a championship unless you trust your teammates, man. Ain't nobody winning a championship by themselves. It's a collective, it's a process, and it's a team sport. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to come together as a roster and a team and play more team-oriented ball. Pace and space, ball movement. I mean, this is a guy under Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors, man. How many times for years have Knicks fans been hoping and talking about, oh man, if we just played like Steve Kerr and Golden State, ball movement, player movement, space, all of that, and he talks about playing fast as well. So I know that's a buzzword, wanting to play fast as well. But yeah, the process he talked about day to day. So he's going to be very into these practices, man. He's going to be very into the shoot arounds and long shoot arounds apparently, and practices and the process of details and drills and getting into it. Military background, very regimented. But he mentioned connectivity and trust, and I think that is what is really really key, fam. Trust. We have a great roster, man, outstanding roster, and guys have so many talents. And look, I think most of the roster, like I said yesterday, never quit on Tibbs. They like Tibbs and they appreciate that. But I feel like they weren't a fan of his offense. If you're OG Macau and Cat in those exit interviews, I'm sure they would have spoken about, look, I feel like I could do more, but the ball just didn't move enough, and I feel like the trust wasn't high enough in certain situations, and ultimately we fell short. So let's keep it going, man.
I'm looking forward to getting to know you all, but there's a lot of work to do, and I'm ready to get started.
Okay, now we're going to open up to the questions.
Coach, just your style of play that we want to play, and just what's it like having Jalen Brunson kind of running your team?
The first thing is, everybody knows I like to play fast, and
Yeah, so you got it straight out, man, straight out into the open, man. I love to play fast. So that's great. Not ducking away from that, man. Was asked about Brunson. And just to tie into AP's question in the chat right now, we've got the souped up chat buzzing. Smash that like button. AP says, now that the Knicks have been revamped, is this the best roster Brown has ever had? What do you think? As a head coach, yes. Obviously, he's coached the LeBron Cavaliers, AP, that got to 60 wins in the NBA Finals. But that was LeBron and a lot of complementary players, So in terms of this roster on the New York Knicks, I feel like it's the best, overall roster, in terms of talent from top to bottom. But obviously, you can't, discredit that LeBron team that won 60 games. It's just whatever fits, and whatever system that he can implement. But pace, we've got to play a lot faster as well. Look at Oklahoma and Indiana, man. So, Mike Brown is a younger mind from Thibodeau. He understands the modern game a bit more. He obviously has his principles, philosophy, but I feel like he will understand the modern game a lot more. This is a guy under Steve Kerr, guys. Steve Kerr was a championship coach player with Michael Jordan, and as a player and as a coach as well. So Mike Brown's then going to talk about the roster. It's very versatile, and we can play in different types of ways.
like I said, we have an outstanding roster. I'm excited about that. And to have a guy like Jalen out there gives you the versatility to play all different types of ways, which is what it's going to take throughout a course of a ball game.
Man, me personally, that could be the best soundbite that I take from this whole thing. Throughout the entire ball game, ladies and gentlemen, the ball game can change, right? The game within the game. The game changes, man, no matter how you plan and prepare before the game begins. Once the game starts, the mind games begin and the adjustments and, other coaches throwing different things at you. You got to continue to evolve during the ball game. So that's what I love the most, man. Tibbs was very prepared, but he rarely made in-game adjustments, man. It's a 48-minute game, and things can happen real quick. So I like the fact that he mentioned roster versatility. We could play different types of ways, and we're going to implement that all throughout the ball game.
know you had expectations and other jobs you've taken, stepped in behind the fiddle and stuff. Just kind of what is it for you coming into a team that's reached the conference finals, the expectations you're stepping into?
Well, there's nobody has any bigger expectations, first of all, than I do. I mean, my expectations are high. But I mean, this is the Knicks. I talked about Madison Square Garden being iconic. I talked about our fans. I love and embrace the expectations that come along with it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, got to hit on that, man. So yeah, obviously big expectations. He already spoke about wanting to win multiple championships. So that question was already addressed. But his expectations are high, and he's embracing that right now. And this is a coach that's been let go multiple times, but obviously coached a lot of championship or bust situations, guys. When you coach LeBron, when you're coaching in Golden State, San Antonio, championships are the only thing that they focus on. Anything else is outside noise. It's championship or bust. When you're coaching a LeBron James, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry. I think the only stop Mike Brown's really been in where championships weren't realistic was his recent stop, Sacramento. I mean, you can't realistically look down the camera with a straight face and talk about championships when you're coaching Sacramento. But everywhere else, it was championship or bust.
When obviously a team makes the conference finals, there's going to be questions about why did they fire the last guy and what is the new guy bringing in to elevate it above what the previous guy did. So in what ways do you plan to kind of just elevate this team in ways that Tom Thibodeau did?
Well, first of all, Tom's a tremendous coach, and he is a friend of mine. But I don't want to get into the past. I'm just excited about the roster. I'm excited about the things that we're going to put in place here and where we can go with the guys that we have. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, I know he was going to get asked about Tibbs. It was inevitable. I'm really glad that he just didn't even give it any time. It's a new chapter, a new era. The coaching staff and Leon would have given him a front office would have given him a full rundown of what went wrong and what they hope is different. And he doesn't need to speak on that in the public eye. Obviously coaches respect coaches as well. And so I'm glad he didn't give that much time. With Tibbs. I mean, what's he going to come out and say? Yeah, I heard that Tibbs didn't make adjustments and I feel like we could do this better and all of that. No, just focus on the future, And as he's going to speak on next, his experience getting to 6 finals, man.
In terms of championship caliber, good basketball, how do you define that? What is your vision of good basketball, particularly with the pieces you have on both sides of the floor?
Well, it's a twofold question. What I've experienced, and I said it in my opening statement, I've been to 6 finals with 3 different teams, and the commonality that they all had is they all sacrifice for one another. They're all connected. The connectivity, it's at the highest, and it starts with ownership on down. They all have a competitive spirit, and there's a high level of belief, not just in the process, but each other. So those 4 things are common amongst all the teams that I've been with that have participated in the finals.
Yeah, just to echo what he said earlier, the connectivity and the trust was a common theme across all the winning teams, he's been with. And I think, Mike Brown has looked on a guy that hasn't won, because of the Sacramento situation, not winning the championship in Cleveland and getting fired. And that seems to be what people think of when they think of Mike Brown. but you can't ignore the fact that he's won, in so many of these situations and been a part of that winning as well. So I feel like he's going to bring a lot more of that mindset, and help instill that belief with these guys. I mean, if we're really comparing resumes, Thibodeau's won one championship as an assistant with Boston. Mike Brown's won obviously multiple championships, as an assistant, four of them.
James Edwards, with the Athletic, very nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
Obviously, when you're going into a job search, you want to sell yourself to the team. When you go into those, what do you want to hear from the team in terms of what they want to do to help enhance you and set you up for success too?
The first thing, the only person I really had to sell myself to was Roe, and obviously it worked. That's why she's sitting right there. But I respect Leon's process. I feel like I'm a detailed guy. I feel like I'm thorough with anything and everything that I try to do. So it's no different here. I was just myself throughout the process. Great conversations with Mr. Dolan, obviously with Leon and his group, because my whole thing is I want to form a partnership with him to do this together. It's impossible to do on your own, and obviously the outcome is exciting for me because I'm sitting in the seat that I wanted to be in.
Yeah, so you mentioned partnerships again, Dolan. And next question coming up is awesome about the starting five. The question you guys addressed yesterday about, how does he feel about the starting five? But yeah, accountability, relationships, and trust. And obviously, Golden State, man, he was kind of railroaded with that sorry, not Golden State, Sacramento. He was railroaded with that situation. So he feels like he has the support, trust of this front office and ownership.
Mike, how are you? Chris Harrington, ESPN. Nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
One of the things that stands out a lot from the job you did in Sacramento and just generally is I think you're seen as a coach who holds his guys accountable. And obviously you coached to account. What is the relationships with the last? What does it look like with this group?
Well, in general, I think that is a part of my job. It's one of my values is accountability, but not just for players and even for myself. I expect people to hold me accountable. But at the end of the day, it's about relationships. It's about the trust that I talked about. And once you grow those relationships, then you're going to talk openly about anything that you need to in the direction that you need to go. And so I'm going to be open and honest with them, and I'm sure they're going to be open and honest with me. And like I said, I'm no different.
Hey, Mike, Ian Bagley, SNY, nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
I know you said there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of that is looking at this team and what they can do and what you may or may not change. I'm just wondering, the starting five, particularly late in the year, they had a tough time defensively. Do you see areas where they can improve on defense or things that you just, let me do this, maybe we can get some more stuff? Do you see that at all with this group?
Well, again, I thought what the group did this past year in the playoffs, it just shows their potential, and not just defensively but offensively too. And so I'm looking forward to putting a plan in place and working with those guys on both ends of the floor. I love their length. I love their versatility. And so implementing something or my vision is very exciting for me, and hopefully it is for everybody else, because I think the ceiling is high on both ends for the group.
Yeah, so big time question, Yuri. How adaptable is Mike Brown going to be? The fact that he speaks on the roster versatility, the starting five, as he's going to speak on later with Mitch and Cat. He was asked specifically, how does he see Mitch and Cat towards the end, which we're going to hit on. But having a plan, he said, on both sides. They'll love the length, the vision. Two new additions he's going to speak on next. But yeah, in terms of how he wants to play, he has his philosophy, but he does speak on, changing that up during the game, and I think he's going to look at a lot of lineup changes and tinkering. Tibbs loved his rotation being set. Mike Brown's not going to be set on a rotation as strong as Thibodeau was, and he will be more open, to changing those lineups.
Mike, Fred Katz from the Athletic.
Good to see you.
I was curious, the beginning couple months of the year, the Knicks were right there near at the top in the for possession. Kind of after January 1st or so, they were around the middle of the pack in offensive rating. What did you see from watching them in the second half versus the first half of the year of kind of stuff that you can clean up a little bit, and more schematically, how do you feel like the offense can get that level where it was when it was at its best in this last year?
Like I said, I thought Tom Thibodeau did a great job, and the guys did a fantastic job last year. But I'm looking forward. We just added 2 new additions to the team that are going to bring a lot of versatility to how we're going to play. I just can't wait to get on the court and start implementing things that we want to do offensively to help us grow and take it to another level. But we still got some time before we do that.
Yeah, so that was a lot of honesty right there. Offensively, taking it to another level, guys. I mean, that's what you want to get out of these situations. This press conference, in my opinion, we have a lot of versatilities. Loves the 2 new guys, but yeah, instilling that versatility, taking it to another level offensively. He didn't say defensively. He said offensively, take it to another level. So that was a great question from Fred Katz of The Athletic. And, Mike Brown is going to juice up our offense, guys. It's not going to be as crazy and laborious as it was with Tibbs and Brunson pounding the rock. Finding buckets is going to be a lot more seamless. Hopefully we can go on extended streaks and guys can get on fire with the ball flowing and the ball moving. And we all know when guys are buying in defensively, it's generally because the ball is moving, on the other side. In terms of, I see your conversation about Pat Riley as well, AP and Buzzer. With Pat Riley, back in the day when he was coaching, it's also who you got to go through. It was Michael Jordan, it was Hakeem Olajuwon a lot of the time. Things have changed a lot. Things have changed a lot recently. If you look how wide open the East is, I think it's going to be a lot easier now than what it used to be.
How you doing? Good to see you.
It seemed like over the course of this year, there were quite a few coaching changes, really starting with you, went on to Memphis and Denver, and finally here, that surprised people. The team had done very well. The guy had a great run there, took them to places they hadn't gone in a long time. Is it getting harder as a coach to sort of understand what the organization wants, or why do you want to keep doing this, jump right back in and keep going as a coach?
I mean, I'm passionate about coaching. I want to win. And, you want to be in a great place that has like thinking. And so I know for me, especially speaking with Mr. Dolan, speaking with Leon, and I have a history with Leon, knowing who he is as a person, knowing that I'd love to partner with him, and then looking at the roster. And the reality of it is, Rose said, we better move to New York because I'm a foodie. So when you combine all those things, it was a no-brainer for me. The league is the league, and there's always going to be ebbs and flows in terms of how the hiring and firing process goes, and you just embrace it and you keep moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, all the things we knew already, that he's a competitor and he wants to win. And when you don't have that recognition that I said earlier as a head coach, yes, he's a winner as an assistant. He's still young, 55 years old. he wants to keep going, and how attractive is this situation, to come in. He wins a championship in New York. Not only is he a legend, he's a Hall of Famer, bona fide, first ballot Hall of Famer. If Mike Brown can win a championship here, and good collaboration with the owner and the front office, and they pay the luxury tax, and the fans are awesome. New York City, his fiance is excited to get here as well. I think we're going to see a successful partnership.
Hi, I'm Deacon Sharon Taylor. Congratulations on the new goal. In Sacramento, your first year, ending the playoff drought, what do you bring from that experience here in your first year?
I learned a lot, not just in Sacramento, but throughout my entire career. I'm a firm believer that if you don't evolve, no matter what profession you're in, I'm sure you guys feel it too, especially some of you guys that have been around for a long time. Okay, I'm not going to say any names. I'm just pointing out that way. I'm not saying any names, but for some of you guys that's been around a long time, and you feel the young bucks. I'm not pointing it or saying it. You feel the young bucks clawing at the back of your heels, and so learning, growing, evolving throughout the course of your time of where you're at is something that I'm a firm believer in, and I can't just pinpoint one thing, but I know I appreciate my time in Sacramento. I appreciate the fans there, and I appreciate the opportunity that Vivek gave me to run his team.
I want to kind of piggybacking on that.
Okay.
The idea of evolving. I mean, basketball has obviously evolved from when you first started as a coach to
Yeah.
now. Just how your views on basketball changed, considering how the game has evolved, and considering your experience. You mentioned Golden State, you guys won a bunch of titles. Just how was your view on basketball changing with the game?
It's changed in a lot of different ways. I mean, I can go far back. My first bench job was with the Washington Bullets. They were still called the Bullets back then, and we were playing at the Cap Center still in Landover, Maryland. And we had Chris Webber and Juwan Howard and Tracy Murray and all those guys, Tim Legler, and you learn a lot from not just your experience as a coach with the other coaches there, but also from the players. When I was in San Antonio with David and Tim, it was about playing inside out. And now, fast forward to my time with Steve, it's about pace and space.
Yeah, pace and space, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly what was bandied about, when Mike Brown was talked about, before getting the job. Pace and space. Also, just before, did he throw shots at, maybe some former coaches out there with lack of evolution, needing to evolve throughout his time? And we didn't see that with Tibbs. Tibbs didn't evolve much at all. Refused to try anything new, defensively, zone, blitz, full court pressure. A lot of those things we just didn't see. And so, look, talk is cheap. We'll see how much Mike Brown is willing to, to change and adapt. But he's welcoming that by talking about, how much he's evolved, and pace and space. The game changing, recognizing that we have a Karl Anthony Towns, right? And there were so many games Cat put up 1-3 attempt, or 2 or 3 attempts. Man, he should be getting up 5 to 6 to 8 3-point attempts, man, every game. There's a reason you traded for him, and there's a reason you're paying him $50 million.
And that's where the game is. And like I said, if you can't evolve, you're going to get left behind. And so I feel like I'm trying to do that, and hopefully we'll be able to bring some of that here.
Mike, Rod Rubin from Newsday.
Pleasure.
A question about the Eastern Conference landscape. Some of the high-achieving teams have suffered crippling injuries that could affect them in the coming season. How do you see the Knicks as they stack up in the conference landscape?
Well, first of all, you don't ever want to see anybody get hurt, especially like the way those guys did. excuse me, that's unfortunate. You know, throw basketball out the window. That's just unfortunate for them as individuals, and on top of that, for their families and organizations, all that other stuff. But you know, there are a lot of good teams out there. It doesn't matter if those guys are injured or not. At the end of the day, teams are going to find ways to win, and so we don't feel like it's going to be any easier just because of the injuries going forward. We're going to have to focus on this thing one day at a time, one practice at a time, one shoot around at a time, and try to get better each and every day. So when it comes time to make our run in the playoffs, we're ready.
Stephen,
So when it comes to the playoffs, we're ready, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all heard what Deuce McBride said. A lot of the things we didn't do in the regular season left us exposed, right? So Mike Brown talking about how diligent he's going to be in practice, shoot-arounds, and preparing these guys. Also, one thing I want to add is that no matter what you do in the regular season, you better have something up your sleeve for the playoffs, right? With whether it was by accident or not, and it worked out for the Knicks, but you know, whether or not it's credit to Tibbs, you know, I'm willing to give him some credit. With the Boston series, he changed to a switching defense, and we didn't see that throughout the regular season. And so, what do you guys think that you should save some things up your sleeve for the regular season, during the regular season for the playoffs, so that coaches don't see all of your you know, your ideas, your philosophy, your playbook? Because the regular season's 82 games, but the playoffs is when winning is done. And so I think you got to have something up your sleeve that you know, you're ready to unveil, you know, throughout the playoffs. To so yeah, we're almost towards the end, and then we're going to get on to the rest of the news. But just to answer the question about Buzzer, from Buzzer here, what do I think of Mike Brown? I mean, I don't know why you say, what do you think of this guy? I mean, he's our coach now, fam. Just call him by Mike. Call him Mike Brown. So you don't really sound like a fan. You said at the end of the day, it's about relationships. No, it's about winning. I think he was talking about, with relationships, he spoke about the players. You know, you need that relationship, good relationship with the players, and the front office, and the ownership. But in terms of the coach, you know, it's about winning. You know, it is about winning. So you're not wrong there. But I think relationships are very, very important. And I think he already addressed, you know, the winning. You know, I think he already addressed that. He said he's going to bring his experience here to try to help win multiple championships. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, just to sort of compare with Tibbs. Tibbs said, you know, winning is more fun than fun is fun. But with Thibodeau, ultimately, you know, he couldn't get over the line. So you can be all about winning, but your process could be incorrect. You know, it's all about the process. So you build the relationships, the trust, you know, you put in the work with the practices and all of that. And then, you know, and then the winning will come. You know, that's my thoughts on that situation. So yeah, let's recap and conclude with the final bit.
on the New York Post.
Good.
You know, you obviously took Sacramento in a short amount of time to places that hadn't been in a very long time.
Yeah.
So from this coast, it's very unclear why they fired you. And did you ever get a clear idea of what happened there?
You know, I don't even want to get into it because that's behind me. I'm excited about being here in New York, and like I said earlier, taking her to a couple of restaurants because it probably won't happen come September or October, at least for the next 6 months. But I'm again thankful for the opportunity out in Sacramento.
So I just got one.
Yeah.
Coaching guys like LeBron, coaching guys like Steph, Kevin Durant, Tim Duncan, what does that experience help you with from job to job?
You know, it's part of my evolution. I learned a lot from all those guys, from Tim Duncan to LeBron to Steph to KD to Draymond to Foxy. I mean, you go down the line because they're all different. That's what makes my experience, my background, in my opinion, helped me be different or unique. Just being around those guys, even a guy like Andre Iguodala, who I love to death. You know, just all those guys helped me grow in some way, shape, or form, and they all, whether they want to admit it or not or whatever, they all have a little bit to do with why I'm standing right here.
Mike Carroll from New York Post. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm curious how closely you followed watching these guys last year. Obviously, in the moment, you didn't realize you'd be standing there.
Right.
You were just watching it. Assuming you were watching it as a guy who likes basketball and knows basketball and is interested in it. What were your impressions then? Not realizing you were even coaching, but just watching him as a basketball person.
Well, again, watching them as a fan, which I did not just here, but with every team in the league. You know, you're excited. I said that they have we have an outstanding roster. What they did in the playoffs shows their potential, and I'm looking forward to getting to work with these guys.
Yeah, so key takeaway, he saw the potential, right? He saw what was going on with Tibbs. You got to see, the players not maybe performing to their capacity, their highest capacity, raising the ceiling. Mike Brown, sees that potential, obviously watching from afar. So I see that. Yeah, I got you, Buzzer. I understand, man. Mike Brown wasn't everyone's, first choice, and I understand. We got this new coach now, and Knicks fans, we want to feel connected with our coach and things like that. The truth is, Thibodeau was very polarizing for many. You either loved him or maybe you didn't. Mike Brown could be the same thing. But yeah, to your point earlier, it is all about winning. If the winning comes, people won't care. If Thibodeau led us to a championship, I would have been the first one to pat him on the back and shake his hand. I don't think the process was right, but if he got the results, then you can't argue with that. With Mike Brown, I might not like all of his process, but if he gets the job done, I'll be happy. As will y'all. So you're right to that degree. It's about winning, but there's steps before winning. That's the thing. You take over as a head coach. You can't just come in and say, yeah, we're going to win, and it's all about winning. The players will be looking at you like, all right, what's the plan? What's the process? What's the plan? And I know it's cliche for many people, but you got to start from scratch. You got to start with your philosophy, your plan, and that's some of the things Tibbs overlooked with shoot arounds. Not practicing enough, out of bounds, man, turnovers. Failure to understand the play, fouling up three. All of those details will help, I think, with this squad, and definitely. But yeah, in terms of Mike Brown, J Kidd's resume, J Kidd's a head coach, got them to the finals. Mike Brown's done the same thing. I think coaches look for all of them to get to where they're at. They all have understanding of the game. I think scenarios and situations play a major key because who are your stars, who are your rosters, and all of that. It's tricky. J Kidd had Luka. He had a deep Dallas team. Mike Brown overachieved with Sacramento. And he had the LeBron with Cleveland with a poor supporting cast. Around him. So ultimately, look, for me, I'm looking at this as an upgrade. I'm happy that Mike Brown's replaced Tibbs. Mike Brown wasn't my first choice, but I still feel like it was an upgrade right now for this current squad. So I'm giving Mike Brown my full support. I'm giving him a chance. In year one, the window's wide open.
All right, we'll do a couple more, James.
first few days of getting a new job like that? How soon are you talking to players? How soon are you trying to finalize your staff? Can you just take us through that process of the moment you knew you would come here to today, I guess?
Yeah, you know, it's a lot of that. You want to reach out to all your players. You want to start that line of communication going, because at the end of the day, again, I go back to, this is what you guys do. It's about relationships, and those relationships are some of the most important relationships that I'm going to have going forward. And so touching base with them, getting that process going, and then, you know, I want to be collaborative. I want to form that partnership with Leon again. I'm excited to do that with him, and so he and I, we just started, you know, sitting down and talking about different ways to formulate a staff. So that's going to be a process that's ongoing, and who knows how long it will take. But those are a couple of things that you really start to dive into, as well as trying to figure out the landscape and all that other stuff when you get a job.
Hey, Mike, just your thoughts, based on what you saw of Carl Towns and Mitchell Robinson, the idea of those two guys sharing the floor together.
You know, once I get my staff together and we dive more into it, we'll figure out, you know, all those types of things. I'm excited that they're both on the team, obviously, because they're two different players. You know, Mitchell is a vertical threat. Cat, as you know, is a space threat. And so to have the versatility that those two guys bring to the table is going to be a lot of fun.
Last question.
In all your stops, is there a Mike Brown way to play, or do you adapt to roster and opportunity each time you go to?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. You know, I think you have a philosophy on both ends of the floor, but you have to make sure that it fits with your personnel. So it's ever evolving, and it will be here once our roster is final, our staff is final. We'll lay the groundwork or the foundation for what we're going to do going forward as a unit.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
That is it, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate your patience getting through this all and rocking with us. I'm sure you've watched it, and some of you may not have seen it, so that's why you're here reacting with us. Great comments in the chat. Jet Life's in the building. Richard, what's good? Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. JM3 in the building. Look, man, that last part was a great way to conclude. I think his philosophy, regardless of your philosophy, he said, you know, it has to be evolving, ever evolving, and make sure that it fits your roster. So we have a different group of guys, can play so many different lineups. I think, like Richard sums it up, you know, the biggest change I'd expect is pace. The team will be a lot faster, and there's a reason why, as we're going to talk about now, why we're looking for more ball handlers, you know, why we're looking for more point guards. You can't really do that with just Brunson and Kolek, you know, as the main point guard. So the other thing that he said is assistants. He's working with Leon Rose right now to assemble his staff, and I think that's really good. And we need to, you know, to get to that point where we do have multiple ball handlers, man. Malcolm Brogdon has been linked to so many teams now. Not so much to the Knicks. DeAnthony Melton looks like he's going to go to Golden State. It looks like Al Horford been revealed that he's not going to go back to Sacramento. Right? We all know this young demon, well, experienced demon. We got 2K revealing the look of Jordan Clarkson in the new blue unis. And I do think he's going to help a lot with some ball movement off the bench. And I'm not really worried about the ball movement off the bench. I think with Hart playing more minutes off the bench, you know, the ball will move. Yabu and Deuce. I think there will be a lot of pace and space. But the starting five, if you're playing Macau, Bridges, and just Brunson, as two guys that can handle the ball. What do y'all think about that? You know, is that a reason why we're looking for another ball handler? Because I don't trust Mikal Bridges, man, as a supporting ball handler for Brunson. So I get why Tibbs started Josh Hart for a lot of those games. As stubborn and mind-numbing as it was, man, Hart gave the Knicks a lot more than just rebounding. He was an outlet. He was a support outlet, a ball handler, and a guy in transition. Now, the more I think about it, starting Mitch makes a lot of sense in some ways, but there is a concern about ball handling, guys. You know, Mitchell Robin, you know, OG and Cat can't really handle the ball and create stuff, right? So that's putting a lot on the table of Mikal Bridges and obviously Brunson. So how do y'all see it working, man? Do we just play shorter spurt lineups and play Brunson for 5 minutes and then get him off, get him some rest, bring in maybe the bench guys a little earlier? Is that one way you could see it happening? Glenn's in the house. Great to see you. Rick Brunson, yeah, taking a reduced role. So I do think Darvin Ham, maybe Phil Handy are going to come in, man. I would love us to take a look at Terry Stotts. That hasn't been a name people have really spoken of, fam. What do y'all think about a Terry Stotts? Played with Damian Lillard, Coach Damian Lillard. You know, such a great offensive coach. With those Portland years, man, there were some giant killers knocking out OKC with Dame as well. But I think Jordan Clarkson could play a lot of minutes alongside Brunson, fam. You talk about pace and space. How is Mike Brown going to achieve that pace and space? Well, a lineup of Brunson, Clarkson, Mikal, OG, and Cat is going to get you pace and space. Yabusele next to Cat can get you pace and space with Deuce McBride also next to Brunson, fam. Yeah, so the guys are on the graphic that are faded, fam. Those are the two spots that are open. So they're the kind of to be determined. Landry Shamet, free agent, but that spot is going to get filled by a veteran, and Kevin McCullough is on the faded next to Landry, kind of like Back to the Future, fam. Are they back or are they not back? It's like Back to the Future, fam. Faded in the graphic. You know, we have a 12-man roster right now. We need to get to 14. And let's talk about some of these vets that we can bring in, man. Another ball handler. I think wings were okay. Now, guys, as we see Jordan Clarkson get with Chris Brickley, the renowned training coach in NYC. Jordan Clarkson putting it up, man. A flamethrower out here. We do have a couple of flamethrowers coming into Summer League, fam. Udai Barber. We got Biwali Bales, the Aussie point guard. He's going to be fun. Dink Pate is going to get a lot of minutes, I think, off the bench. This is the kind of starting five I'm going with for Summer League, man. Starting this Saturday with Tyler Kolek, Kevin McCullough, Pacome Dadier, Marjan Beauchamp, and Ariel Hukporti, right, competing for that Summer League chip. And then off the pine, we've got Dink Pate and Barber that can handle the backcourt duties and score in transition. Muhammad Diawara, the Knicks' first pick that they selected in the second round. And Anton Watson returning on that two-way to impress in Summer League. And James Nagy. What do y'all think about that? Yeah, Buzzer, that's a fair question. Can Cat get up and down like that? I think Cat's good as the trailer, so that could help a lot. Pace and space, as long as it's kind of spaced out. Cat doesn't need to be the first guy down the floor. Traditionally, Cat will hang back to try to grab the rebound, and so I think he'll be the trailing man. Malone as an assistant Isaac, I can't really see that happening, but a lot of experience with Malone. But he'll wait for a senior role, for a head coach role. What's up, JJ? Knicks will win 58 games and make it to the finals. I think we'll make it to the finals, man. I'm not looking past the East. I understand, but I'm just so excited and hyped for the roster, and I just think, the pathway is as easy as it's been, man, for a minute. So I'm going to predict, 56 to 58 wins. Definitely we could get to the finals. SB, I understand what you're saying with this. Macau could be benched, bring in primary ball handler, move Brunson to the 2. Maybe we could see a lot of Clarkson Brunson minutes, a lot of Deuce and Brunson minutes. I think that's best case scenario for now until we add, a Brogdon, a Marcus Smart. That would be ideal. I mean, Bradley Beal is out there, but I think it's a done deal that he's going back to the Clippers, fam. I think Bradley Beal's going to go back to the Clippers. What do y'all think about that? I think Clarkson's going to play a heap of minutes. But, I mean, this man would be the perfect acquisition, man. Marcus Smart could play off a defense next to Brunson and could also obviously run the point. Glenn says, new coach is exciting, but I think our defense is going to suffer and the fans are going to be restless and want to fire Brown to get a defensive coach. And we're back looking for a coach again. Man, I understand the new, uncharted territory with a new coach, but I don't think our defense can get much worse than what it was. That's my honest opinion. I think a great analogy is the best form of defense is offense as well. Putting the ball in the hoop constantly is important. Yes, you have to get stops, but you also have to outscore the other team. So I think first we just have to tap into our offensive potential and be a sound defense. We might not need to be top 10 in the league as long as our offense is elite. Lonnie says, we need another ball handler. We saw teams picked up Brunson full court. The defense leaned on Brunson and put Dyson and forwards on him. 100% Lonnie. That really ticked me off, man, seeing Brunson, swarmed out there. But that's just a Thibodeau thing, in my opinion. I think we will see a major adjustment, man. Mike Brown won't be having that, man. You need to get up and down a lot quicker, and people wanted to give Brunson a lot of crap, and I didn't like that because you look at Tibbs, all he stops, he's very point guard, pound the rock. That's Tibbs everywhere. Look at Derrick Rose. That's Tibbs' offense, man. Derrick Rose, pound the rock, isolation. That's it, man. He's always had scoring point guards, has Tibbs. That's not a Brunson thing, man. Brunson's a student of the game. Brunson understood the best way to win was to break down the defense because he was one of the best ball handlers and shot creators, man. The only way you can get good offense with OG and McCall and some of these guys that aren't great creators is to get the ball up the court quick. If you ain't getting the ball up the court quick, and Brunson and McCall and OG are standing in the corners, it's very hard to generate good shots. OG needs to work on the handles, but we need player movement, and I think we're going to get that with the Princeton offense, fam. When the players are standing in the corners, defenders can get into the passing lane. Right. But a way to mitigate that is to get spacing above the break. Fam, spacing above the break is key. Malcolm Brogdon would be an excellent name. And we're obviously waiting to find out when he's going to get bought out, when a potential Marcus Smart could get bought out. I mean, the Wizards actually controlling a lot of free agency right now. They just acquired CJ McCollum. They got Chris Middleton, Kelly Olynyk, but they've got Marcus Smart and Brogdon right now, and they're waiting to see if they can get a sign and trade done with Brogdon. The Knicks don't have any cap space right now, so if it is a sign and trade, we'll have to send somebody out. With a sign and trade, it just depends on what Brogdon's trying to do. I do think DeLon Wright deserves, real consideration, fam. But yeah, my main concern with Brogdon is his injury history. When was the last time he finished a full season? We need a guy that's going to finish the season out. I'll be okay with Landry. I'll be okay with DeLon Wright, fam. Markel Fultz. Even Isaac says, "What's the word on Simmons?" Yeah, it's still open at the moment. Simmons considering his options, but I think he's waiting to see all the money dry up, and then he's going to take a minimum somewhere. I think Golden State is the holdup with Kuminga's restricted free agency at the moment. Al Horford, the domino waiting to fall there. Denver, potential suitor for Al Horford as well. Bradley Beal, I think, is going to go directly to the Clippers once he clears buyout. And I think that's going to leave some of these guys. DeAnthony Melton looks like he's going to go to Golden State. So we'll see what plays out, man. Okay, looks like Olynyk was just traded. I missed that, fam. Things happen quick while we're streaming live, man, with the streets buzzing. Appreciate y'all in the house. Let me pull up these updates, fam. The Washington Wizards are trading Kelly Olynyk, man, to the Spurs for Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and a 2026 second round pick. Okay, I like Malachi Branham coming out of the draft. I like Blake Wesley. So if I'm the Wizards, man, I don't know why I'm trading Olynyk though. So looks like the Wizards are trying to get younger. I was hoping that they would focus on winning some games, man. Looks like they're breaking it up. Okay, reporting Fred Katz. As long as Bradley Beal secures a contract buyout with the Suns, the LA Clippers are the likely leaders to sign him. League sources tell The Athletic. So yeah, Bradley Beal to the LA Clippers, fam. So yeah, the Knicks aren't really into that right now. I think we need another point guard. And we already know the names out there, fam. Markel Fultz, Corey Joseph, DeAnthony Melton, Gary Payton II, Seth Curry. Seth Curry's a CAA client, but he's more of an off-ball guy in my opinion. What do y'all think about Seth Curry? More of an off-ball shooter. I think his skill set would be valuable, but we need a guy that's probably able to create more off the dribble, fam. As we're waiting on the Knicks to finalize their staff, I think that'll be put together real quick. But yeah, I'm surprised no one really asked Mike Brown about Summer League, fam, and the young guys. Right. I'm sure we're going to get an interview later in the week while he's at Summer League. He might even be on the sideline. As ESPN do like to bring in some of those guests, to talk to them on the sidelines. But Tyler Kolek, I mean, right now, if we want pace and space and we want to, play a little bit faster and get up and down, I'm looking at a guy like Kolek. As the only other true ball handler, facilitator outside of Jalen Brunson. But bear in mind, Clarkson can do an okay job. So I'll wait to see what Clarkson can do. But we know Deuce McBride isn't that. Deuce McBride can get into some trouble with the ball handling. So I understand why, Ben Simmons is in the conversation, man. Maybe we can sell Ben Simmons on that role, on a 20-minute a night off the bench, lead ball handler. HRM, man, they're messing with our pick. I hope they can win some games though, man. They've still got Middleton, CJ McCollum. I think their rookies will take a step up. I think Washington they'll win more games. Coach says Ben Ben likes the West Coast. He likes the sunny weather. I don't know how close it is with the Knicks, but we're interested. We're definitely interested. Ben Simmons' agent is, I think, Bernie Lee. So Ben Simmons is not CAA. Creative Lou says Marcus Smart is small, but he's a dog and a great defender. And I will love more wingspan, though, on that bench lineup. Yeah, wingspan's important, man. Maybe Najee gets that spot. I think it's going to be McCullough, but Najee for his wingspan might really, be a thing. I think, like I said last night, Diawara is expected to go back to France and continue to develop, right? The two ways are kind of crowded between Beauchamp, currently Beauchamp, but I don't think he's going to be eligible for this upcoming season because the two-way eligibility is a player that's 3 years or less experience, and Beauchamp just finished his third year. So I think it is going to come down to Anton Watson, Najee, and Dink Pate for these two ways, fam. Yeah, Simmons do have the wingspan, definitely. Keon TV says it's Chris Paul's last season. This might be his last season. Yep, it is. I think he's already announced. So it's going to be a farewell tour, man. Chris Paul hasn't chosen his destination yet. Don't forget Damian Lillard hasn't chosen either. There's a lot of point guards, I think, still waiting for the dominoes to fall to see which team they're going to go to. I think the Bucks probably going to pick up a veteran point guard because they got Ryan Rollins and they got KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr. So the Bucks, if you're a veteran point guard, you could stroll straight into the starting lineup with Giannis and Miles Turner if you are a point guard. So my guess is that the Bucks land some experienced point guard. Indiana don't have Halliburton for another year as well. They might be in the market to land one of these vets. So, look, the Knicks are in these conversations now heavy, but there's a lot of teams with an open point guard spot right now. And we're waiting on Malcolm Brogdon to get a release. Marcus Smart. See, the Warriors, like they did now with Olynyk, they're looking for sign and trade possibilities right now. The Knicks don't need that. The Knicks just need a clean buyout so that he can go to wherever he wants to go. That's the holdup. These teams looking at sign and trades and that we can't do that. We don't have cap space at the moment, and we don't want to part with any assets. So if we just pull up the unrestricted free agents, as we're still waiting on some major restricted free agents. Yeah, Giddey, Quentin Grimes, Kuminga. They're all waiting, man, but the money ain't there. Cam Thomas is another one. That the Brooklyn Nets don't want to bid against themselves, fam. So it's going to be a long wait, man. Some of these things could drag out, but Kyle Lowry going back to Philly, man. So I would look at Lonnie Walker. I would look at Brogdon, obviously, but that's a wait and see. Ish Smith still out there. DeAnthony Melton going to go to Golden State, I think. Corey Joseph, Chris Paul, Bones Highland, Alec Burks. Can I interest anybody in an Alec Burks? Not the most steady ball handler, man, but he definitely can score and can defend. He can score and defend at a solid level. But I mean, man, DeLon Wright. DeLon Wright, not the most sexy name right now, but can ball handle, can guard some wings at 6'5", with a good wingspan. Do we run it back with DeLon Wright? What do y'all think? He might be our backup plan, fam. Some of y'all might disagree either, but I would bring back DeLon Wright before Landry. And that's not really speaking on Landry's talent. That's just speaking on roster need, right? If we bring back Landry, how is he fitting into that rotation, man? With Hart, Deuce, and Clarkson off the bench, man. You can't be playing 4 undersized guys, man. In theory, a lot of y'all like that look in 2K, but this is the real world, man. You can't be playing Deuce McBride 6'2", Clarkson 6'3", Landry Shamet 6'4", and Josh Hart 6'4". That's too small, man. The other thing is we need to get more athletic. We need to get younger and we need to get more athletic. I would love an athletic guy in that, in that bench situation that can maybe even come in and start. We're missing athletes in the backcourt. I think with respect to Mikal Bridges and Brunson and Deuce and that, Deuce had a lot of trouble finishing at the basket, man, at the rim. Clarkson's a smaller guy as well, fam. So I think Yabusele is in for a massive season. He's going to play a lot at 6'8". Yabusele going to play starters minutes, man. Get ready for the Yabusele experience. Because at 6'8", he's going to play 3, 4, 5. He has to play a lot of minutes, man. He's one of our better athletes. Yeah, good one, Johnny. Let Mike Brown choose the free agent. Collaboration. Definitely, he could have a major say. Look, I like Torrey Craig. I think he's a good wing. But yeah, with Landry, I just don't think like it's. I like his skill set. Don't get me wrong. He can shoot. He can score a bit. But we kind of got that with Deuce McBride and Clarkson now. Don't forget Hart's back to the bench now, assuming he's not going to start. Now, if you want to go radical and sell me on a Brunson, Shamet, Mikal Bridges, starting unit with OG and Cat, then I could see a fit. Then I could see a fit with a 5-out lineup with Landry. But that's with the starting unit. I can't see Landry fitting with the bench right now. There's just too many guys of the similar size and position. That's why the Ben Simmons one makes so much sense, man. He's 6'10", can guard 1 through 5, and can ball handle, which is what we need right now. We don't need Ben Simmons the head case. Ben Simmons the physical player profile we need. What do y'all think about that, man? Yeah, Johnny says Yabu is precious on steroids. Yeah, maybe an Anthony Mason light. Fam. With respect to Mace, the late great legend, Anthony Mace, Yabusele could be the light version of that, man. Abdul says Amir Coffey can shoot very well, finish, defend, and he's 6'7". Yep, I think that would be a good fit. I like a good athlete and a guy with some size. That's why I'm not for the Seth Curry pickup, man. What's Seth Curry gonna do? Add another 6'1", guy into the backcourt, man. We're minuscule in the backcourt. We need real size. That's why I like the DeLon Wright situation. Yeah, AB's in the past is creative. I like Mike Brown. He said he loves his wings, and CT, I agree. We need to be more athletic. Yeah, man. What about Delano Banton? Man, Richard agrees with DeLon. Fits best with Clarkson. Yep. That allows you to play Deuce McBride with the starters a little bit more as well. Yeah, that situation. I'll tell you what I'm really looking at, man. This player's probably not going to be available on the minimum, but a player that's a dynamic shooting guard that can handle a little bit, like your Bradley Beals, like your Zach LaVine's, an athletic shooting guard that can score and facilitate a little bit. I mean, I know we have Mikal Bridges, but what does that say about Mikal Bridges? On offense, he needs to give us more. I don't know if he's that dynamic creator at the 2. I think Mikal Bridges is really a 3, fam. He's a quintessential 3-and-D guy. But if we had a DeMar DeRozan, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, ideally from a roster construction perspective, that would be perfect next to Brunson. A guy that can just get his own shot and create and handle and take the load off of Brunson as well. That's how we have to play faster as well. What's up, Georgie? I heard that a good source said no for Ben Simmons. Yeah, I could see that. I do know Ben Simmons likes the West Coast. He likes it sunny out there. Whatever's the case, man, he's waiting for the dominoes to fall. Wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in with the Lakers. Maybe he can back Luka up. Gabe Vincent is their backup point guard, man. So that tells you how dire their situation is. It doesn't look like he's going to go to the Clippers because it looks like Bradley Beal is going to go there. I don't think Ben Simmons is going to go back to the Clippers. Otherwise, it would have been a done deal already. Man, and man, in talking about this weekend, I'm really excited to see Tyler Kolek. Not gonna lie, I know from a defensive standpoint that he's not what we need right now. But hey, we need to get faster. We need playmaking and we need ball handling right now. And he's on this roster. That's a guarantee. I mean, we might really be stretching it, but we really might need to look at a guy like a Corey Joseph. I know it's not sexy, but DeLon Wright before Corey Joseph, so I definitely would take DeLon Wright. From an athletic standpoint and a wing standpoint, I like Javonte Green. Sign me up for Javonte Green, Torrey Craig. Those guys can guard 3s and 4s. Gives us a bit more size over Shamet. Doug McDermott, 6'8", a movement shooter kind of guy, but he's not really a defensive wing. I feel you on the Amir Coffey. That's an interesting name, still available. Dominic Barlow, Delano Banton, Chris Boucher. I like a lot of those wings. JT Thor. Any takers for a JT Thor? I mean, Beauchamp's with us. Beauchamp's not available on the 2-way, according to what I saw is the criteria. You can't be over 3 years of NBA experience. So I think the only way Marjan Beauchamp's going to stick on this squad is a training camp deal and to get the final veteran spot. But I don't think we're going to use up a veteran spot on Beauchamp. Yeah, I hope Marcus Smart is the guy we're waiting for, man. I'll be okay with that. Fam. I mean, heck, if we're talking about the likes of, DeLon Wright, Corey Joseph, and that, why aren't we bringing Rokas over and just taking a look at him? For whatever Rokas is, he's a steady ball handler. Rokas is a steady ball handler, man. He's definitely a guy that can handle. Yeah, Ding Pei, Dorkosaurus Rex, I'm just saving my evaluation to see him a lot more this weekend. But yeah, from what I've seen, a 6'8" ball handler. But again, he's super young. He's not going to step right in. He's not going to step right into that spot, fam. The Japanese guy is Baba. Udai Baba, fam, the 29-year-old veteran journeyman. But guess what? He's going to come into Summer League and help us. Right? You need a couple of vets in Summer League Trust me, because, he's going to provide some ball handling and some scoring. You need some of these veterans in Summer League. If you look at the starting five, it's not exactly, dynamic offensively. I think we're going to be awesome defensively with that starting five, with switchability. You got Pacome Dadier, Kevin McCullough, Marjan Beauchamp, and Ariel Hukporti, man. We're going to have guys in prison defensively with our defense. Those guys are all switchable, including Hukporti. Obviously, Tyler Kolek is the only defensive liability. But who knows? He might be able to hold his own now defensively. He might got stronger. But I think our strength heading into Summer League with that starting five is defense, man. A lot of dogs on that starting five, man, with Beauchamp, McCullough, and Dadier. A lot of wingspan and length. Passing lanes, too. I think we can clamp down with the starting five. And then the bench come in. Dink Pate, Udai Barber, Tokyo Drift's going to come in. And Diawara and Naji are going to use their wingspan to finish at the rim. And then we're obviously going to get a look at, some guy that, might not factor in as much. But you've got Big Wally Bales, the shooting, the scoring point guard out of Australia. He's 23. So he might be a spark plug off the bench. We've obviously got Jamal Bay, who can fill it up with the Westchester Knicks coming in. He's going to give us some scoring off the bench as well. From what I've seen, man, I'm intrigued by that Slovenian Luka Skuka. We have our own 6'10", Luka's cousin, fam. Luka Doncic cousin coming in. Luka Skuka. He's 6'10", man, and can ball handle and shoot. So I'm excited to look at Luka Skuka. But yeah, outside of that, that's the main Summer League guys, man. With respect to Lance Ware and that, I think he's going to get mop-up duty. So before I give y'all a bold prediction, put your bold predictions in the chat for Summer League, fam. It's not really his cousin, man. I'm just joking with y'all. But who knows, man? Slovenia is a small country, 2 million people. Maybe they're a fourth distant cousins. But their games, obviously they're very skilled, the Slovenians. But yeah, put your bold predictions for Summer League in the chat, right? There's 5 games that we know, starting with Detroit. Right, we got Detroit, July 11, Boston, July 13, Brooklyn, July 15, Indiana, July 17, and then one more additional game to be announced. It could be a final game if the Knicks are, in the running to win this, the championship. With those 5 games as a guarantee, my bold prediction, fam, is that we're going to see 1 or 2 players on this Summer League roster get shut down. What I mean by that is they're going to be too good. They're going to be too good for Summer League. And the New York Knicks Summer League coach and whatever, they're going to shut them down. I think there's a couple of players in that starting 5 that could be too good for Summer League. That's my bold prediction, man. And if I'm going to choose, I think we're going to see Tyler Kolek and most likely Ariel Hukporti. After 2 or 3 games, and after we've seen what we needed to see, they're going to get shut down. And that's the standard protocol when a player's too good for Summer League. I mean, we already know what Kolek can do, man, to be honest. He's going to get 8 assists. He's going to hopefully shoot efficient. And I know, these guys can benefit from the extra reps, but there's actually other guys that we want to see more of now. Maybe they want to give Dink Pate the 4th and 5th game to start, and see what he can do. Maybe they want to get a bigger look at Mohamed Diawara and James Nagy, so that we can make more informed decisions, right? I mean, to be honest, if Hakpority balls out for 2 or 3 games, what's the point in playing him a 4th and 5th game? You know, I would shut him down if he's shown to be too good. And I think Hakpority is going to absolutely dominate, right? He's going to devastate, and he's a monster, in Summer League. He's a brick wall, man. They're going to have problems moving Hakpority. This is a guy that's played pro for 4 seasons now, and a guy that's played on the New York Knicks last season. He outplayed some veteran, centers last season in the NBA. He was given Scotty Barnes fits on the defensive side. He was dominating Brooklyn for a stretch. So I think Hakpority, man, I could tell you right now, he's too good for Summer League. So expect to see him do well in the first couple of games. Yeah, it might be so dominant that they just shut him down. Now, but Beauchamp, I mean, this guy's been he's been an NBA rotation for Milwaukee. Yeah, he's too good for Summer League as well. He might play 2 games and, they might shut him down. With the 5 games, they usually like to give the bigger names, heavy minutes early. And then, depending on the record, by the 3rd, 4th, 5th game, they usually like to, do good by these other guys. Do right by their agents. Don't forget, there's a lot of guys that want to eat, fam. This is like a showcase. This is an invitational, a showcase. Guys are coming in here to do, to help parlay this into an opportunity. Udai Barber is 29 years old. So, he's coming in. We're doing him a favor. Barber's not coming in doing us a favor. We're doing him a favor. Make no mistake. Barber's coming in as a 29-year-old, from the Japanese league. He's using this as a showcase. So the Knicks will do what they need to do for the first 2-3 games, and then they might shuffle. They might recycle the lineups, and so they should, man. But Wally Bales, we're going to give him a chance to show out and get a contract. Dwayne Washington used us last season to get a contract and go to Charlotte. Luka Skuka, I'm sure we're going to showcase him a little bit late. We're going to showcase Dink Pate. Dink Pate's a guy that I want to see running the point guard a bit more. So if Kolek has 2 dominant performances, we might switch it up, especially with Nagy. Buzzer Beater says Barber, who I want to see. Yeah, I'm excited. Keon, I want to see Shaz Lanier as well. Ron Holland, Dennis Jenkins, Bobby Clintman. And I was a real fan of Bryce Williams, man. Bryce Williams coming out of, was it Nebraska? Nebraska or Wisconsin, man. Bryce Williams. I think it was coming out of Nebraska. Creative, I haven't been this hyped since Obi Quickly Sims. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, man. I was the most hyped for Summer League with Porzingis, Jaren Grant. That under Phil Jackson, when the Knicks drafted Porzingis and Jaren Grant, I was like, man, we got our 1-2 punch. We got our pick and roll demons for the future. I was like, man, we got Jaren Grant with pick 13 or whatever it was. No, actually, he wore number 13. He was a later first-round pick, I think, with Jaren Grant out of Notre Dame. Yep. Dorkosaurus Rex says Luka was Luka's teammate for FIBA Slovenia. Yeah, and he's only 23, I think 22, 23, so he's actually got potential, man. Um, yep. Now, Johnny says, I disagree. It's very important for Kolek to showcase his play in front of Mike Brown. Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying if he balls out for 2 or 3 games, that's it. You've seen enough. You don't. Summer League, like I said, it's a showcase. You just need to see what you need to see. We already know Kolek's on the main roster and is going to factor in. But if he has 2 or 3 dominant performances, that's enough. It's on to the next guy. You want to see these other guys get, some real opportunities as well. I want to see Kevin McCullough handle the basketball a bit more as well. Yeah, Dink Pate is the wild card, man. So yeah, I've been talking to some draft scouts and trying to get a couple of guests lined up so that we can talk about the process with Dink Pate and hopefully next week we've got something coming on. It was hopeful for this week, but we've just pushed that back for next week. But Summer League will still be going. Yeah, shout out Knicks Real Talk. Knicks Real Talk family in here as well. One of the best platforms out here. Knicks Real Talk, Divine Sharp Hours, doing some great things with the Knicks content world. Salute. Roberto Torres says Najee the most interesting player in Summer League. Yeah, Roberto, man, Najee's competing for a real roster spot. He's definitely going to get either a two-way, but he's competing for a real roster spot as well. His wingspan's crazy. And his shot blocking prowess, fam. Y'all remember we had summer leagues with Jacob Toppin, Trevor Keels, Jalen Martin, who went to Brooklyn. Man, that was lean. That was a lean summer league. I'm not going to lie, man. Thank you we had Skapinsev to get me through it, man. Skapinsev was the only guy I was, we had Trevor Keels, we had Jake Toppin, and we had Jalen Martin, man. That was the worst summer league, man, going back 2 years ago. Not last year, but the one before that. I think it was the year we had no draft picks and we kicked the can down the road with Oklahoma, man. We traded out for Ousmane Dieng. I think that was a rough summer league, man. I almost didn't want to watch, man. I mean, I think I was hype over some of the Westchester guys, man. I was hype over them, man. We had Dwayne Washington, Daquan Jeffries, Mamadi Diakite as well. Roberto says, why don't we put Kolek against opposition's best scorer to see his defensive improvement? I think we're going to just put Kolek in the spots that he would play normally with the main squad. And I think that's just going to be at the one. If he can hold his own against the opposing point guard, I think that's all he needs to do. But yeah, will be very interesting to see how strong he's got. We're going to chop it up with Bill Daughtry soon. Yeah, we will. We'll chop it up with Bill Daughtry very soon. I'm just waiting for the off-season to unfold, all the roster spots to be guaranteed. And in the dark days of the off-season, we'll produce some more content and be able to talk about expectations, rotations and favorites out east and all of that. Definitely. Going to line up a conversation with the other Bill Pedo as well. We're just waiting for all of these, pennies to drop. Like AP us, what's going to happen with these extensions? I'm really unsure, man. I really feel like things are fluid. There could be a major trade later in the off season. It's just going to come down to negotiations, I know Mikal Bridges comes across as a cool guy, and I like Mikal Bridges as a human being, as a person. He's a real chill dude. But make no mistake, this is a business, and he might not be willing to give the Knicks a discount as much as they hope. You know, remember OG Anunoby? We all thought that, yeah, it was going to be a done deal. Yeah, OG Anunoby, 35 million, or whatever. In the end, man, he extracted every single million he could get out of us. It ended up being 42 million. So, you know, these guys want to eat. And you only play for so long. And, you know, these guys want to maximize. They ain't all Jalen Brunsons. That's what makes Jalen Brunson so special. Right. Put some respect on Jalen Brunson's name. I can't understand why anyone is disrespectful towards Jalen Brunson, man. This whole thing would not exist. He left Dallas to come to the Knicks as a free agent. And he helped start this thing after Randall came. But we all know Randall wasn't, as you know, the team player that Brunson is all about. So, just for context for y'all, Jalen Suggs is earning more money than Jalen Brunson next season. Right? I don't care what background you're from and whatever, man. That's asinine. In no world should Jalen Suggs be earning more money than Jalen Brunson. That's what Jalen Brunson's helped done for this organization, man. Right? Paolo Banchero's earning more money, man. Almost double the salary of Jalen Brunson, man. That's asinine. Jalen Suggs can't even stay healthy. He can't even stay on the floor. And he's earning more, man. Josh Giddey, about to earn more than Jalen Brunson. Possibly. You know. Quentin Grimes looking to get paid. Emmanuel Quickley earning similar to Jalen Brunson. You know. So he's done a lot of amazing things for this situation. And obviously, we got more help around Brunson now. So he does need to trust the teammates a lot more on the court. But in terms of off the court, man, he's been the best ambassador for this club. You know, off the court. Mamadi Diakite, those guys lit it up with Westchester. But I like Daquan Jeffries. I think, you know, we got to see a little bit of his bag, and he got to stick in Charlotte with Daquan Jeffries. Dwayne Washington, I wasn't a fan of. Our summer league coach is going to be Jordan Brink, who's a developmental coach. Yeah, I spoke about that yesterday, fam. How great that is. Really looking forward to seeing him work again with Kolek and Dardier and that. And look, about what I said earlier, I would not be mad if all of these guys play all of the games. Like, the more Knicks, the better. You know, I want to see more of these guys. I'm just saying. Normally, how it works is if a couple of your older prospects show that they're too good for summer league, you usually shut them down. You know, and just give the other guys a chance. You know. Jalen sacrificed a lot, fam. Sacrificed money for chips. And once he gets one, put that damn statue in front of MSG. Definitely, man. And we're seeing how difficult. We're already right up against the second apron. And look at the money he took. Could you imagine if he said, "Nah, I want the full thing, man. Get me the Paolo Banchero deal. You know, I want 55 million." Man, we'd be in a world of trouble trying to fill this roster out, man. The cat money would just be too much. The cat money, the OG money, it would be too much to build a contender. If Brunson had said, you know, I want the full bag. So definitely sacrifice, man, is big time. Devontae Grant plays a bit like Cam Thomas. Also saw a name out there, man, Devontae Graham. Do y'all remember Devontae Graham? He was legit with Houston with Hornets. You know, he faded out of nowhere, man. He went downhill real quick. Trey Mann went and took his spot. But Devontae Graham was a bucket, man. At one point, he was like starting material. Yeah, Buzzer, man, I always speak to EJ. Been letting him know, man. He's been catching up on a couple of streams. He said, great work. You know, the channel's been buzzing over the off season, and EJ's definitely checking us out where he can. But he's just so super busy, man. He's got a wonderful partner right now, and things are good, man, in his life. He's in the first year of his doctorate, studying, you know, to complete his doctorate and fulfill his mother's wish. And he's still got 2 more years to go. So, but yeah, EJ's definitely still trying to get on and have a chat with us as well. So I appreciate the love. And you can also hit up EJ on X. You know, he's out there, EJ Blanchard on X, on our, yeah, it's in the description, EJ's handle. So y'all can send him a message if you want to chop it up. Felicia says, CT, not comparing Brunson and OG, but OG did 32.5 million on the table. Nowhere near as much as Brunson left. Yeah, I know OG, he did take, you know, whatever he was worth. I think OG's worth every dollar. I'm just saying that the Knicks didn't expect that number to be that high, I think, when they traded for him. Definitely. Yeah, Devontae Graham disappeared real quick, man. So did y'all give me the candidates for the players that just were hot for a minute and then they just disappeared real quick. You know, there's so many dudes, man. I was looking at Justice Winslow the other day, man. Y'all remember Justice Winslow, man? He came in and he disappeared real quick. Like, the dude's so young, man. Frank Ntilikina is still younger than Obi Toppin, man. He's 26. I mean, Frank Ntilikina not even in the prime of his career now. And he's been out of the league. But that Justice Winslow one was crazy. Jose Alvarado. I think he's still in the league a little bit, but I don't know if he was injured a lot. But man, Jose Alvarado was super hot. And then he just faded out of nowhere, man. I know he's doing work with Puerto Rico in FIBA. But in terms of the league, I mean, the best one might be Roy Hibbert, man. Roy Hibbert was like a franchise center, man. A shot blocking center, man. And he disappeared like Thanos. Just clicked his, you know, Infinity Stones, man. Infinity Gauntlet. You know, man. Look, some of these players, they get paid real good. And they're like, man, I'm good, man. I'm just going to put my feet up. Some of these players ain't hungry. I'm going to keep it a buck. Some of these players should still be in the league. They got paid their big rookie deal. And they're just like, you know what, man? I'd rather be a barber. Or I'd rather be, you know, I'd rather own a car wash. You know, I'd rather run a juice bar or a Domino's chain. You know, invest their money, man. And look, I respect that. A lot of these players make smart investments. Some of them, man. Shout out to Vin Baker, man. I think Vin Baker owns like 5 Starbuckses, 13 you know, Papa John's pizzas. You know, some of these players really own good businesses. But they're just not hungry. They're not hungry to stay in the NBA. Man, that's a good one. Stanley Johnson. Man, he was Stan the Man for 1 minute. Alonzo Trier. Jeremy Lamb, that's a good one. Jeremy Lamb's still hanging around a little bit. Georgie says, CT, you saw SGA's contract. He's going to make 82 million, basically 1 million per game, man. Yeah, I saw Devin Booker's deal, man. 75 million. And you wonder why LeBron opted in. Like, I'm not surprised why LeBron opted into that 50 million, man. If Devin Booker's worth 75, You know, Dame's worth 60, SGA and Banchero's worth that. If OG Anunoby's worth 42, I mean, LeBron's worth, you know, the salary cap's been restrictive, but if LeBron in his prime got paid what he was really worth, I mean, LeBron would have been the first $100 million player, you know? I mean, what would have Michael Jordan be worth, man? Ownership. Could you imagine if Michael Jordan came up in this day, like this era, and had the hype of social media, Instagram and X, and baby Michael Jordan was coming up? Man, the only way to get him would be to give him ownership. You know, you have Matt Ishbia from Phoenix. You know, give him half the franchise. That's the only way you'd keep him. Michael Kidd Gilchrist, man, was a crazy one. Yep. Yeah, Huck's recovering from that injury, but I think he's all good now. I think he's real good now, fam. So for that, yeah, those that don't missed it earlier, fam, we signed Romeo Langford. Man, this kind of got me mini hype for Westchester, man. Romeo Langford was a first round pick. You know, I thought he was going to be the truth. Coming up. I mean, look, RJ Barrett did come in with a lot of hype. I mean, that Duke team, you know. I mean, look, you guys let me know, man. Given where RJ Barrett is in his career, man, what are your thoughts about RJ Barrett? Like, is he unfulfilled talent? Was he just overrated a little bit at Duke? But he was, you know, coming out from Montverde Academy and Canada and all of that, and you know, coming into Duke. I mean, he was hyped as being like, you know, a franchise player. Has RJ Barrett lived up to that being a franchise player right now? I mean, I got to say no. He just maybe hasn't worked on his defense enough. The shot was always a question mark. But, you know, you got the Raptors trying to get off of him now, trying to get off of his contract. So, I mean, I dealt with a lot of RJ Barrett slander on this platform, you know. People, you know, didn't want to put him in any trade conversations, and people wanted the organization to build around RJ Barrett. I mean, you got to say that the talent evaluators have been correct. You know, Leon Rose and co. Right, you got to say that contract is a minus right now. I think, you know, when it comes to that. Now, he could be a very good third, maybe fourth option on a championship team, but definitely not a 1-2 option. I think with RJ Barrett, man, the defense just isn't good enough. You know. But look, the Knicks are in a great spot. We're contenders right now. We've got even haters like Chris Broussard, you know, joining the movement. A- for the Knicks offseason. He said, "Oh my, I love what the Knicks have done." Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons on their recent podcast said that they love what the Knicks have done as well. I mean, when you're getting haters saying they love what the Knicks have done, and we're second favorite now to win the championship, I mean, this thing's real now, guys. This thing has been as real as it's ever been now. I mean, the expectations are there, and we need to get to the finals. You know, when haters are coming out of the woodwork saying that you're legit, then you're legit. You know, so the expectations are all there, man. On the RJ front, Buzzer says no, RJ has not. He reminds me of Andrew Wiggins. Yeah, man, and look, RJ's still super young, and I think he can have still, you know, an incredible career play out. I think RJ Barrett could be that guy when he's like 28, 29 on a contender as the fourth option, and everyone's going to be like, man, how did they get RJ Barrett? Kind of like Aaron Gordon, fam. Like, when the Nuggets picked up Aaron Gordon, everyone was kind of like, all right, man, he's You know, he wasn't the franchise guy in Orlando, but this is a cool spot. You're playing next to two studs, two Hall of Famers, Jamal Murray and the Joker, and you just fit right in next to Michael Porter. So I think while his stock's quite low, I think if RJ Barrett gets on a winning situation where he doesn't have to carry a team that's bad, like I said, I think if RJ Barrett's 28, 29 and he lands on a team that's contending, like Aaron Gordon did, then I think everyone's going to be like, man, you know, how did they get RJ Barrett? He's actually really good. But right now, man, RJ Barrett's not a guy that's going to do heavy lifting for you. He's not going to be the number 1 or number 2 guy right now. And the same with Scotty Barnes, in my opinion. I've never been a big fan of Scotty Barnes, man. That contract's looking terrible by the day. And I'm also not a major fan of Paolo Banchero either, man. 58 million for Paolo Banchero, man. That's going to look ridiculous, in my opinion. I just think, you know, he's going to have, like, he's going to be capped out, you know, right now. What do y'all think? Yeah, Gary Harris, he really fell off, man. Terrence Ross really fell out too, man. Michael Carter Williams, Zaire Smith. Do y'all remember Zaire Smith? One of those failed draft picks from Philly. Nerlens Noel. Like I said, Justice Winslow. Creative says, man, RJ Barrett is a force in the paint, especially when you need a foul. Yeah, I think health was an issue last season, but I just think, yeah, you know, the clock's up when you get a major contract, you know, and, you know, it's a honeymoon period when you're on a rookie deal and then you're on a rookie extension. It's kind of like a honeymoon period, man. You ain't, it's kind of like when you're with a partner and you ain't living with them yet, you know. Once you move in or they move in and you start living together, I think like with Paolo, when that contract, if they're not winning in 2-3 years, that Paolo contract's gonna be bad. It's the kind of thing with RJ Barrett. You know, his name was always carrying him. It's like, all right, he's gonna be good. When's he gonna be good? All right, he got paid. All right, he's kind of not that good, you know. And Toronto took him on, man, and a homecoming, and it hasn't worked out. The same thing with Quickly. Same thing happened with Jeremy Grant and a lot of guys that got paid right now. You know, Anthony Simons. That's why you know, Portland moved on from Anthony Simons, man. You know, right now Benedict Mather and Shadon Sharp, I think, are on the come up. We'll see if those guys, you know, when they get a big contract. Things change, man, when you get that big contract. You really find out whether a player really wants to, you know, get better and win, or whether or not they're just okay taking the bag. You know, because they can retire right now, man. They don't care, or they don't need to care. You know, they got generational wealth, you know, forever. The thing about Jalen Brunson and a guy like him is, you know, he came into the league not heralded, and he has a chip on his shoulder, and he wants to continue to prove people wrong. I think that's really, really big time as well, fam. And I think Jalen Suggs is another guy that could really hurt a team if he's not healthy. Keon, yeah, the Sixers had a lot of talent, but they traded them boys, Drew Holiday, Iguodala. And yeah, they whiffed on a couple of those picks, man. Nerlens Noel, Michael Carter Williams, Jahlil Okafor, man. I think Jahlil Okafor is probably the best candidate for hot 1 minute and then disappear the next. You know, I mean, he was hot coming into the league, man. Overhyped. Remember you had Screaming A. Smith? It's like, man, cussing out Porzingis. Why didn't you get Jahlil Okafor? man, after 2 seasons, Jahlil Okafor was like, in China or playing in the G League. That's why, shout out to Cat, man. Respect to Cat. Cat, man, he's a polarizing player, but I tell you what, every team he's been on has been winning. Right. That's how you know a player's legit, man. Even if they've got flaws, but wherever they go, the team wins. Man, Western Conference Finals last year with Minnesota, comes to the Knicks, is another All-Star, All-NBA player, and helps the Knicks get to the conference finals. Right. I know some people are frustrated with Cat, man, but he's a winning player, His talent is just, you can't teach talent like that. His talent is legit. The shooting is legit. Right? You just got to figure out a way with lineups, substitute defense, offense, and just work with him to get the best out of him. But there's a reason why Karl Anthony Towns is still getting paid a lot. He's still, an all-star, all-NBA guy. Hasn't hit 30 yet. And if you look at, those guys, Porzingis. I think Porzingis has had a pretty solid career despite the injuries. But Jahlil Okafor, Zion Williamson, Ja Morant, RJ Barrett. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns has lived up to the #1 pick. Man, he's lived up to the hype as a #1 selection, coming in. Roberto Torres says RJ is a better pro than Zion, and I believe when his career is done, I think his career will be better than Ja. Yeah, I think I could see that. I mean, RJ's from a solid background, foundation, and was ready to be a professional. I think the other guys have sort of struggled coming into new fame and coming into the league with a lot of spotlight and a lot of money and success. RJ Barrett's definitely handled the success a lot better than those two, man. And I agree. I won't be surprised if RJ has a much longer, fruitful career. But I think, man, out of all of them, RJ could be the guy that has to adapt to being the second, third option, quicker. Zion and that, how long is it going to be before a franchise just, doesn't build around them no more, Like, how long as an organization can you continue to build around Zion or Ja and try to win, Kind of a similar thing with LaMelo Ball. And that's something that Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo touched on. When do you decide whether LaMelo Ball is the franchise guy to build with, to be a winner, or when do you understand that, hey, we're just gonna continue with LaMelo Ball because his box office, he sells tickets, and we can't really sign free agents, but can you build around LaMelo, and be a winner, health is obviously a big thing. I'm not questioning the talent. Yeah, creative, man. Zion should get traded, man. I think, how much longer is that stock going to be decent before you get nothing for his contract anymore? They should have traded Zion, I think, 2 seasons ago, man. They would have got the farm, man. They would have got a couple of really good rotation players. They would have got 4 to 5 first-round picks. I mean, if they had offered Zion to the Knicks before the whole Brunson thing happened, and when the Knicks lost out on Kevin Durant and Kyrie, man, they would have got bigger than the Mikal Bridges package. They would have got 5 firsts, and multiple players. Right now, no one's given that up. No one's given that up for Zion right now. So they have to hope that Zion actually, comes good. They have to hope that he's hungry enough that it comes good. And this is a guy that's already earned over $200 million. So if the hunger wasn't there in the beginning to get in shape and stay in shape and stay out of injury issues, then he's already got $200 million in the bank. How much hungry is he going to get, to succeed? Scoot Henderson, yeah, a lot of question marks over him, man. Ron Holland, I think as well. I think Cade's obviously coming good now. Number 1 pick, that was bona fide. I mean, back in the day, man, number 1 picks were like, it was like a guarantee. You know, you got a number 1 pick, you were like, man, this guy's definitely going to pan out. But now it's kind of like, depending on what draft, I mean, yeah, Cooper Flag, you know, they got lucky with Dallas. But after that, man, it drops off big time. Those drafts of Cat, Porzingis, D'Angelo Russell, and Jahlil Okafor, man, like, we haven't seen many of those drafts where it's like 4 or 5 franchise-changing guys. You know, right now it's real different, man. And that's the issue with these rookie contracts, man. You have to find out real quick, are these guys built for it, or you need to, you know, to allocate funds and you know elsewhere, because otherwise you get stuck with the guy. You know, yeah, it never was a guarantee. Children, definitely. It really is a crapshoot. Definitely. And look, I honestly feel like the college sort of program system's a bit overhyped. You know, you're seeing dudes come from overseas and they can come in, contribute. You know, how do you put so much stock in, you know, someone dominates in college like Zion did at Duke, RJ Barrett at Duke. You know, they dominate, but when you come into the pros, it's a very different game in terms of floor spacing. You know, they attack your weaknesses. You know, like Zion still can't shoot. Let's say Zion stayed healthy and was still athletic. What would happen without a jump shot? Could he play in late in games, you know, with no jump shot? Remember Ricky Rubio, man, came in. Ricky Rubio, you know, had a solid career, but just could never find a jump shot, man. Yeah, Cooper Flag, I think he's going to be a stud. If you're a two-way player, I think that the ceiling is quite high. The floor is very high if you're a two-way player. And that's where the Jahlil Okafor thing, just people were so enamored with his post game and salivating over his post game that, you know, they didn't really look into his defensive game translating into the NBA with more court spacing, fam. You know, don't forget the college court is so tiny, the spacing, you know, and you can stand under the bucket. You know, who knows what's going to happen with Zach Edey, man? Can you play Zach Edey in a late playoff game? See, the thing we got with Mitchell Robinson can move his feet, man. If you're a modern day big and you can't move your feet, you know, it doesn't look great for you, man. You have to be able to move your feet. So I would definitely take one of these longer, skinny guys that are rangy, like a Najee, Cole, Hukporty, and Mitch, over these Zach Edeys. You know. Zach Edey might have to find a 3-point shot. That could keep him in the league, I think. Yeah, the league changed a little bit, fam. What made me actually think about Jahlil Okafor, man? He actually signed in Japan. So Jahlil Okafor, man, he signed in the B League in Japan, the league that Udai Barber's just come from, man. So that's where Jahlil Okafor at right now. He's in Japan. He's not even in China. But shout out to him. He's still making a living, you know, playing basketball. Just didn't live up to that, you know, the hype coming in. It's tough. Mario Hezonja, he's still playing in Europe. Yeah, Mario Hezonja, he actually shouted out our guy Yabusele, fam. Here we go. So Yabusele said, let's work on the Knicks post. And then Mario Hezonja said, title or I take your house, with a New York emoji. So once a Knick, always a Knick. Mario Hezonja. So those guys used to play with each other in Europe. Giving it back to Gershwan Yabusele. Let's work. Title or I take your house. He'll always have that moment, man. Blocking LeBron. Optimus says Mitch is the best defending big man in basketball on the paint, on the planet. Can move his feet. Creative says Okafori's role changed due to the change of the center, like Cat and Kristaps. Yep. Yeah, the game did change, you know. Back to the basket, post-up dominance. I mean, 2 points just didn't become as valuable, you know. Especially with these other rim protectors. You have to be able to space the floor out now. Paula says that's what I'm talking about. No incentive to be better. Getting the bag at an early age. Most of these players are not going anywhere. It just comes down to, and this is just the truth for every job, you know, it comes down to like, are they just doing it to earn a living? And that's okay if they are, because in their mind, they're doing a job. And if they're doing the job okay or good, then they deserve to get paid. But in terms of getting better, are they striving to develop new skills? Are they trying to make sure they stay in the league when that contract is done? All of those things, you know, are they a great teammate? You know, all of those things matter, man. What would y'all rather do? Be in the league for 5 years and earn a big bag? Or be in the league for 20 years? Like Kyle Lowry still getting vet minimums, and you know, Joe Ingles still getting vet minimums with Minnesota and being a great teammate, and teams still, you know, hustling to bring you back on a minimum, you know, at 40 years old. Each to their own, man. Some people might want to be in and out of the league for 5 years, get your bag, you know, and go out and do something else. And like I said, some of these players have a good career outside of their basketball. You know, some of these players have great businesses and are making living that way. You know. But Enes Freedom, man, I think he had some political issues as well that got him blackballed. But obviously the defense was a disaster as well, man. Being a good teammate, being a professional, I think is what some people miss that point. Because when they come into the league, it's all about them. It's like, okay, my talent is elite. They're going to build around me. I'm the guy, all of that. When you come into the NBA, you're surrounded by other guys that were the guy. You know, you're not the guy anymore. You're surrounded by dudes that are the guy. And so in that locker room, you know, the only guys that can stick are guys that can coexist. Can you be a teammate? Can you be a good teammate to the other guys, you know? I make you better, you make me better, and we can be better together, and we keep getting paid, and we win. Teams won't want to sign you if you keep going to different teams and you're not winning. I think that's the best thing to get out of the league. You know? If you're a winning culture guy, you'll stick around. Like you look at Andrea Bargnani, another one, man. Man, I hate to hear that name. But, you know, he was all about him, man. Just scoring, you know, chucking. And definitely trying to just, you know, fill it up. Yeah, I think Zion would be worth maybe a couple of picks right now still. You know, some team would still take that gamble just because he's young. But that clock is ticking, you know. Once Zion doesn't have age on his side anymore, man, he'll become Markelle Fultz, you know, Ben Simmons, you know, he'll just be staying in the league but on a minimum, And I think the same goes for that other guy, man. Who was I thinking of? Not just Zion, but someone else. But yeah, similar kind of situation. RJ, that's right, RJ Barrett, right? Now RJ will stay in the league, but what I'm saying about age is once you don't have that age on your side anymore. Like right now, we could still say to Zion, "Oh, he's still young, you know, still got time." Eventually, time runs out. You know, no one's saying that about Ben Simmons no more, man. He's 28. You know, in 2-3 years, no one's going to be saying, "Oh, RJ Barrett, he's still got time." You know, he's out of the, you know, look at guys like Kevin Knox, you know, Frank Ntilikina. They've still got time, but they're like out of the league. You know, eventually you got to turn it around, man. I think look at this example, man. Whose career has aged better than Al Horford, man? I mean, the guy was a star, all-star in his prime, and he's still a highly sought-after free agent. Highly sought-after free agent on the market at 40 years old, man. He's literally holding up free agency to a certain degree right now. Like, with Al Horford's skill set, man. Whatever drugs or whatever he's taken, man, I want it. Al Horford's still carved up, still chiseled, and still playing in the league right now at a high level, man. Those Dominican genes still helping him, man. But he's kept in shape, you know, he's still got the right physique. You know, if you look after your body will age well. You know, you put the right food in, and you treat it well, you practice and train. I mean, look at Al Horford's shape at 40, man. Look at Zion. You know, Zion just can't stay out of the restaurants, you know. Roberto says, yeah, after last year, I learned health more important than seeding. New NBA road home court don't mean a thing. Yet taking care of your guys, definitely, so that they can age well, right? Another guy who's aged well is Steph Curry, man. If Jalen Brunson has the same longevity as Steph Curry, I'll be super happy. You know, I'll be really happy if Jalen Brunson has the same longevity in terms of career-wise as Steph Curry, then I'll be happy with that. You know, if he's 35, 36, 37, and still an all-NBA player and at a really high level, that'll mean that, you know, he's, you know, got a game that can stand the test of time, but also taking care of his body. You know, because that's what can help, you know, stay around in the league at a high level, man. And whatever you want to say about LeBron, you know, the only reason LeBron's been able to be this high level for this long is that he spends so much money on his body, you know, and getting that, you know, keeping that correct, you know. He spends like, I think, $5 million. Well, he was the first player, I think, to spend $1 million a year on dietitians, trainers, and personal chefs, and all of that, man. And now that number's probably gone way up. I think LeBron was like the first guy to spend like $1 million plus a season. He could obviously afford it. I don't think that some of these players can afford all of that. But you got to credit LeBron, man. It's paid off because what has he got? Max deals in the league for 2 decades. You know, are keeping him in that league right now. So from the very end to the beginning, our young guys, man, Summer League coming up this weekend, hoping to make their name in this league and contribute on a winning franchise right now, man. It's all at stake for this season, man. I said it earlier, the season begins this weekend because with these Summer League guys, a lot of them are going to be relied on this season. and we'll see what plays out, fam. I think, yeah, if Huck already has a great summer league, fam, he'll be in for major minutes, and you could definitely split those minutes with Mitch. I think, yeah, Huck Bordy's still hungry because, you know, he's only on a 1-year contract. He's a free agent after this season. Now, the Knicks picked up his 2nd-year option, but Huck Bordy's been around the world, man. He's played professional in Germany, Australia, was going to get drafted 2 years ago, you know, had an injury, so he knows what it's all about, you know, taking advantage of an opportunity that awaits. Kolek as well, he'll know that the Knicks have an opportunity to play another point guard. He wants to take that chance. Pacome Dadier has 2 guys from France now on the team. I think he'll want to show out. And Marjan Beauchamp, he's playing for his NBA career right now, and Kevin McCullough as well. So I think it's going to be hype. You know, this weekend, these guys are going to put in work right now with Jordan Brink returning, and some of the new faces will be hungry to show that they can hang in the league. And we're going to be playing up against Detroit, guys. They got Ron Holland, the high draft pick, coming back for Summer League. He's going to get spicy. Dennis Jenkins as well. Very quick ball handling. They got the power forward Bobby Klintman, the 2nd-round pick from last year, and Chaz Lanier, who was drafted this year as well, had a lot of excitement around his game. Bryce Williams as well, so it's going to be a fun matchup. I'm looking forward to seeing it. We'll be live in a couple of days to preview the full Summer League, and then we'll be ready post-game live on Saturday. Fam, thanks for joining us tonight. Peace to everyone in the chat. Replay squad, salute. And tap that like button. You've got the Knicks streets buzzing. And we'll see you on the next one. Have a great night, everyone. Peace.